Understanding history is all about information. Have too much information and you can start to see connections where none exist and imagine conspiracies where there are none. While too little information can lead to misunderstandings of the events and why they occurred and who is responsible for said events.
Was a psyop all along? No, it was not a psyop all along. But after this stream, I'm about to be.
But people are often more interested in headlines rather than the details, and rarely dive deep into things because it takes too much work to do the needed reading to understand things, especially when the reading needed is 1,000 pages long. In April of 2025, the VTuber Sinder was cancelled by almost every single member of the community for what was at the time understood to be her betrayal of her friends and the sabotaging of their careers. After which, she disappeared from the scene, with many saying that she would never return. But those that doubted her return were proven wrong only a little over 5 months later, on October 7th, 2025, Cinder returned to Twitter for something very unexpected. A 1,000-page document that in depth and detail addressed every accusation made against her and the context that surrounded them. To support her defense, she provided hundreds of tweets, Discord DMs, and Twitter DMs of her conversations with her friends and business colleagues to show her side of the story. Now, as I said, many people do not dive into the details, and most people are not going to read 1,000 pages of self-defense. Most are going to look at it and go, TLDR, lol.
See, this kind of thing puts me in a foul mood.
Or, even if they do take the time to read it, most will only browse and take snippets that they want. But for those of us that are actual historians, that's not good enough. We need all the details and context. So I sat down and read the entire 1,000 pages of the document, and spent months analyzing, reviewing, and building a summary of said document.
What the hell are you doing? I'm kicking my ass! Do you mind?
And I did this so that I could see if we were right all along about Cinder. Did she deserve to be cancelled? Were we wrong? Or were we right all along? And is this just Olympic levels of gaslighting? Buckle up. This is Cinder, all 1,000 pages. The actual organization of Cinder's document is, on first reading, very impressive. It is not a single 1,000-page regurgitation of her side of the story, but rather a structured rebuttal. Instead of a single document, it is more of a collection of documents that could stand independent of their other parts if needed. My review of the document will consist of summarizing each subdocument and reviewing the claims and evidence that Cinder gives in them. I'll also do my best to keep them in order, though that will be not possible for all of them. But to start off, there is the first section of her document titled An Overdue Response. This first part is merely an introduction to why Cinder wrote this document and what purpose it serves. Her cancellation was something that shocked the VTuber community and led to her utter downfall. Starting for her at 2 a.m. in the morning, Cinder had no real way to react to the overwhelming condemnation that she was subjected to, which I will not go over here as I have already gone into extensive detail on the subject in my own video about it. But in summary, it destroyed her life. And she broke down under the overwhelming stress as she lost her friends, the respect of the VTuber community, and even Red, her boyfriend, as she had kicked him out of the house for his part in the ruination of her good name. But after almost 6 months, she slowly put the pieces back together and decided to fight back against what she saw as an unfair treatment and excessive punishment, thus making this document. She summarizes that the document was designed to give the full story and facts supported by evidence, take accountability for what she did and what Red did, to dispel rumors and theories about her and set the record straight, give her own speculation on what happened behind the scenes, and not fuel harassment condemning anyone that uses it as an excuse to harass those that cancelled her. In general, Cinder asserts that the community was lied to. Yes, she did wrong, and she would take accountability for that. But she levels the accusation of falsehood most severely at 3 people. Nanoless, her former primary artist, and the person that provided the most evidence against her. Shy Lily, who, in Cinder's own words, orchestrated and coordinated her cancellation. And finally Silverveil, who she claims lied about their interactions to make things worse for her. She clarifies that speculation is added in the document, but also clearly states that she marks where the speculation is in the document, which, to her credit, she does. Additionally, she announces in the document that as penance for her actions and for all she did wrong, she gave up her own partnership of gamer subs, something she worked hard to earn from December of 22, and was one of her greatest accomplishments. She states she takes full responsibility for the damage done to gamer subs for her fallout, and will not let them suffer for her actions. She admits that some things in the document may be damaging to others, but since they knew the same about the documents that they released about her and did not hold back, she says that she too will not hold back. Her final line being, "The burden of proof is on the accuser, not the accused." The very next section of the document is simply labeled Redacted. Now, this does not mean the actual word redact, but refers to her boyfriend and manager, Redacted MP3, who also goes by the internet handle Red. Sinder clarifies that he too had a part in this document and aided in her construction. He has his own commentary in this document, and his own words are highlighted in blue to make it obvious when he is commenting. Sinder clarifies that both she and Red are still together. After the cancellation, Red and Sinder had a falling out and she fired him as her manager in response to the actions he took behind her back. Though despite this, he was still there for her later when she needed someone and was the only one that she could turn to for help. Sinder once more addresses her cheating on Red, which was brought up in her previous cancellation by one of her accusers. She mentions this is to clarify the issue that she and Red have had in their relationship, and she stresses that they are as human as anyone else. They fight, they disagree, and their real lives are private and should be left as such. She discusses her past with Red and the early days of her streaming, living together in Red's family house, streaming from the basement, Red right next to her moderating the entire time. This being their setup all the way from the start of her streams up until February of 2025, when Cinder would move back in with her parents. She reveals all of this to show that they could have gone through each other's DMs at any time, but trusted each other enough to not do so, since Red always seemed to have Cinder's best interest in mind. Sinder tells us that Red will be working with her again, but obviously under much stricter review, with her having full access to his DMs and work communications. She reasserts that Red hid things from her, specifically referring to the exclusions of Bao and Cotton from Nano's client list, telling their artists that Bao was competition, talking ill of Shy Lily to Nano, speaking to their artists about not working with Silverveil, and his conversations with their mods that also modded for Silver. Despite the initial fallout, Cinder is now back with Redacted, and to prove it, she has deleted her original post firing him shortly after her cancellation. Cinder's other big post after her cancellation was an apology for all she had been accused of and was cancelled for. An apology that did not go over well with people. She takes this section of her document to make corrections to that apology, to admit things she did wrong and what she over-apologized for. The main thing that most people took away from her apology was that she pushed everything onto Red and took no responsibility for what she did. To clarify this, she itemizes what she did wrong, and what Red did wrong, and what they both did wrong. She blamed Red for telling her how great it would be to work with Silverveil, pushing her to pursue Silver too constantly, and holding a grudge against Bao. She still asserts he did this. What she blamed Red for, that she was also guilty of, however, was being the one with the business-oriented outlook on things from the start. Cinder admits that she too adopted this same mindset. What she claims she didn't know Red was doing was talking to Nano about the blacklisting requests. Red including Bao and Cotton in his conversation, and eventually making a deal with Nano around exclusivity in January of 2025. This on top of bad-mouthing Bao in their DMs, as if they were shared feelings between the two of them, and also Red talking to Nano about Shy Lily and her model in April of 2025. She then goes over a list of things she said about Red that she was wrong about, which was mostly claiming that he manipulated Nano and pushed her to not work with Silverveil, while talking about Silver all the time. At last, her final list itemizes things she felt she did take accountability for in her apology. This included agreeing with Red to talk with Nano about exclusivity, and agreeing to specifically name Silverveil as a blacklist client in the named terms. Guilt-tripping Nano in her DMs, not knowing about what Red had said about Bao to Nano when she should have, not speaking to Bao about Red's feelings towards her, and letting it spiral to the point that it did. She also admits to being upset when Sacramore told Red and her that he wouldn't be working with them again. Her confiding in Red about Shy Lily's odd behavior between them, becoming resentful towards Silvervale, letting her insecurities and public comments influence her feelings towards Silvervale, assuming Spike copied her design, being very possessive of her design details, overreacting Niantail's Hellhound OC design, cheating on her boyfriend, and neglecting or leaving behind her friends. Red, in his part in this section, corroborates more or less with what Cinder says about the blame. He was always the creative lead on the projects for Cinder brand, and became comfortable speaking with the royal we when discussing things with the artists or model makers. It didn't seem right to him to just say he was the manager, but instead speak as if he was speaking for both of him and Cinder. This got out of control as he started saying this often without Cinder's knowledge. But usually Cinder was on the same page as he was on many creative actions, so he just kept doing it. Cinder does add that there are details that she wanted to clarify about her apology. She left out a lot of information about her interactions with Silvervale and over-apologized. Lied about not knowing that Red talked to Nano about Spite and was wrong about which year the Niantail's issue occurred. These lies she did mostly, in her own words, to prevent more damage than what had already occurred. But she does admit to a long list of actions she was guilty of, and that Red committed too. Each of them she planned to address in the actual document itself. Though one accusation she vehemently denies is that she used her friends for clout and career growth only. She took time to spend with her friends. She made them custom cosplay items, and did her best to support them when she could. But admits that her business mindset, that she mentioned earlier, did bleed more and more into her talking with them and taking away time from spending with them, and also family, and focusing more and more on work. Work became 24/7 for her and Red, as content creation is a constant thing to keep new and relevant. And then that pursuit of work mindset continued on into the competition mindset. Red himself, who has been a content creator for many years, talks about how everyone is launching something new and fancy and interesting all the time. If you don't stay relevant, then by the nature of the industry, you'll be left behind. Almost everyone is in competition, even friends. Even if that was not the goal, and they still wanted to support those friends. He only considered Silver, Bao, and Lily as real competitors, and admits that he was wrong to treat them this way, particularly apologizing to Bao. To close out this section of the document, Cinder apologizes to 3 people in particular. These people including Cotton, who she ghosted about a still mysterious event that happened between the friends and another unnamed friend, an artist who I will not name since they have actively asked to not be named in videos, for Cinder dropping out of a deal for a commission, and lastly, Trickiwi. The one that I feel is most important here is Tricky's, since she was among the closest friends that Cinder had among the girly pops. During a trip to Tokyo, Cinder, Red, and Tricky planned to go to the Godzilla store together, but after waiting for Tricky for an hour in the morning, Red and Cinder left without her due to schedule concerns. Cinder could have gone to check on Tricky in her room, but they didn't and left without her. Cinder vehemently apologized for this, but as a longtime trickster myself, I know how much this must have hurt Tricky.
Here, I share. I love you so much. Oh my god, look how cute you are.
It is after all this setup that we finally get to the first bit of meat of the document. Clocking in at around 256 pages long, Nano's section of Cinder's document is one of the longest. The first part of the document is a general summarization of Cinder's relationship with Nano. Nano is someone Cinder considered a close friend, as well as a co-worker, almost considering her a member of Team Cinder. Red considered Nano a friend too, perhaps even more so than Cinder did, since they interacted more often than Cinder and Nano did. Here in this section, Cinder presents a large number of DMs between Nano and Red, and Nano and herself, giving us a far more broad amount of context to the situation behind Nano and Red, and the exclusivity deal that was at the heart of Cinder's eventual cancellation. The first few DMs that Cinder shows establishes the relationship between Red and Nano. The two of them were very fraternal and sororal in their communications. It is obvious that Red considered Nano a confidant, that one that he could tell anything. This included asking her to exclude potential clients, which went as far back as January of 2023, when Red asked Nano to not work with Spite, who Cinder thought was copying her at the time. Nano willingly agreed to this, saying, "Of course, I protect my baby." Nano seemed to reciprocate this trust in Red, too, as she willingly shared her work schedule with Red to accommodate Cinder's production schedule, which she admits to prioritizing more than her other clientele. Though despite this, the DM showed that she was more than willing to speak up when she would not be able to make a deadline, and Red was willing to accommodate her too. Though she often only refused work from Cinder due to taking on too many commissions at once, which would become a trend as we move through the DMs. Even when Nano refused some work, Red and Cinder would offer to change deadlines and debut events to see if she could still work on the art that they needed, such as Cinder's waifu cups and gamer subs art, even asking gamer subs if Nano could work on the art on her own stream. A very big ask when such art is often teased as being revealed only when the merchandise drops occur. Cinder frames his willingness to let Nano work on her art during stream to support Nano's pursuit as a content creator and streamer herself, which she shows happens often. But among the major issues that cropped up between the streamer and her artist was another wolf VTuber, Silverveil. The initiation of Nano into the drama that surrounded Silver and Cinder was started innocently enough, as Silver asked for a new model from Nano shortly after Cinder's debut. This made Red suspicious, since Nano wasn't a well-known model artist at the time, and it seemed odd to him. Though Nano assured Red that she might just skip working with Silver since she didn't respond very often. But Silver came up again when Red mentioned the need to potentially change the art for Cinder's first waifu cup due to it being very similar to Silverveil's cup art. Cinder had already been accused by the toxic members of the VTuber community as a copycat of Silver, and since both art pieces were made by Nano and similar in style and pose, it would not help Cinder's case if these similar designs were used for the waifu cups. It was here that Red divulges the history of Cinder and how her Hellhound model came about as a direct reason to avoid being called a copycat of Silver. Even changing their original plans to make Cinder's ASMR persona, Tashi, into a VTuber, due to the Sakura Pink connections that both Tashi and Silver had, and instead making Cinder. Much the same as Shylily became an orca to avoid copying Garagura. Though this was personal drama between Cinder and Silver, Nano at first was very interested and actually wanted to know more about it, leading Red to relay to Nano all the different comparisons between Cinder and Silver that had happened over the years. Cinder admits that she knew about this too, since she also spoke to Nano about it. Again, Cinder feels safe here talking with Nano about this, making her one of the few people she ever divulged the situation to. She thought of Nano as a friend, which is why she included Nano's eye logo in almost all of her art as long as Nano was her artist. But despite her interest in the drama, Nano still told Red that she would continue to work with Silver, which Red accepted without any scene counter-argument. He even commended her on getting so much work from other streamers. Though Nano did like gossip, she eventually tired of the talk of Silver, even threatening Red to slap him if he mentioned her again. Though despite his opinion on Silver, Red still complimented Nano on the art she did for Silver, apparently wanting to support his friend more than tear down Silver, which from the presented DMs, it appears more and more that Cinder and Red were dedicated to supporting Nano, their friend, even giving her a pick of the art projects for Cinder that she wanted before going to other artists and commissioning them. And even on those projects, they would give her ample time to complete them and extend the deadlines for her. And Nano needed extensions. She often took too much work, as said before, and Red knew this too, as she often shared her schedule with him. It was during one of these conversations between Red and Nano about her scheduling that Red once mentioned, "If everyone had a Nano baby, it makes them less special." A comment that would be brought up later as evidence of him manipulating Nano. Though, during this, she didn't actually say anything about the comment. But it's something that would dig at Nano, and later she would address it once more. But for now, they continued to discuss business, Red telling Nano that if she was too busy for Cinder's model, then it would be fine and they would find another artist. That it was simply business, and they didn't want to stress her over it. Red and Cinder took pride in Nano's art as Cinder's model mama, but Red stresses it was not a possessive way. Nano, however, did want to keep doing Cinder's model work. Red admits he would not stop her from clearing her schedule for them, to which Nano, on her own initiative, scrapped both Cottontail's model and Silverveil's, which she had already started on stream, telling Red that she would just blame her husband and manager, Mio, in her explanation to Silver, which she shows in her DMs to Silver she did. Though this was a conversation between Red and Nano, it would eventually be blamed on Cinder for supposedly callously mocking Silver in a DM to her, congratulating Silver for her GamerSubs merch when she was, in Silver's words, actively working to take potentially more away, despite Cinder's message being from 2 days before Red and Nano's conversation. Additionally, Nano's comments on Silver's Google Doc tweet expressing shock that Cinder would do this casts a great amount of shade on Nano's behavior, as she said this despite having full knowledge that she was the one to cancel the model and lie to Silver about Mio's involvement. These extended DMs also put the often overlooked Geary connection to Cinder's cancellation into view. In the shared DMs that Nano provides, Geary is mentioned in the same context as Red hoping Silver will get another model maker after being denied Nano, seemingly implying that he felt the same way towards Geary that he did Silver, jealously guarding Nano from other streamers. But with the context of the earlier DMs, it shows that Red was actually excited for Geary to get a Nano model, changing the tone of the presented DM in Nano's document. This was more evidence that Red and Cinder did not gatekeep Nano, which was supported even more by DMs that Cinder had with another friend strongly advocating that they hire Nano for model art. Though Nano did put her foot down once again about Red's comment about her art being devalued by its popularity and availability. Red apologizes and clarifies that he didn't mean to insult her and didn't mean she could only do Cinder work. Red was afraid that if Nano's art style was spread out and too prevalent, those that had her art would not stand out as much as an already crowded VTuber community, comparing it much like a rare card versus a valuable card, like in Pokemon, comparing a Blastoise card versus a Charizard card.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
Overall, Nano and Red came to an understanding, primarily about Nano taking work from Silver, as did Nano and Cinder when she brought this to her as well. It was in these conversations that the famous "it's just business" came from. Cinder denounces this quote as being taken out of context and memed on, being used to accuse her of manipulation of Nano. Cinder insists that she didn't use it to manipulate Nano, only that she and Red would accept whatever decision Nano made about her future projects. This turned out to be a pointless discussion, for though Nano planned to take Silver's model commission again, she soon said that Silver had found another artist and she could work on Cinder's projects again. But again, Nano began to display signs of burnout, and was discussing changing schedules with Red to make room for her art. Red seemed to oblige, offering to find another artist. Despite the burnout, Nano still wanted to work on Cinder art, and even admitting to being willing to cancel her current art schedule if she could do so. This current schedule included Bao, who she still had on her schedule since November of the previous year, 2023, which her model was apparently supposed to be finished in June, but still not even started in July of 2024. In this conversation, that Nano asked Red if Bao would hate her if she cancelled on the model. Red gives his honest opinion that Bao would guilt trip her, as he believed at the time Bao to be, in his words, whiny if she didn't get away, but encouraged Nano to do what she wanted, pushing her to neither keep Bao's model nor cancel it. Nano brought this up with no provocation from Red, as he thought that Bao's model was long since done. Red asked Nano again about her schedule to see if she cancelled any models, as she said she was considering. Red wanted to check, as, in his own words, wanted to make sure they didn't conflict with any of their own plans for Cinder projects. This puts the next DM, which was shared by Nano, into a new perspective, as it is the famous note where Red asks if she cancelled models in all caps, to which Nano says she didn't, and Red comments, "Nano arc delayed to 2026. A comment that makes it look like Red is threatening withholding work, but now appears as him warning her that she will be hindering her own growth as a streamer if she keeps overworking herself. Again, Nano tells Red she is afraid to cancel on Bao, but he supports Nano and tells her not to worry since Bao has good connections and will find a replacement quickly. Nano eventually sends off the message to cancel on Bao, and Red does his best to support her. though he admits that the situation was wrong with both him and Nano, and once again apologizes for his actions. Bao shared the cancellation of her model with her friends in a group chat they shared, but Cinder was unable to say anything, too unsure of what to say. This would bite her later when Bao dropped her document on it and excoriated Cinder about her earlier apology and her previous knowledge of her model's cancellation, which Cinder admits she knew about. But the DMs do prove that Nano's claims that Red asked her to cancel Bao's model mid-work are wrong. Red did not ask her to cancel on Bao, and since Bao's model in late July was still not started, it could not have been near finished only a little over a week later when Nano cancelled on her. But Nano's waffling does match Bao's own words about a back and forth that started between them. About 2 months after Nano had cancelled on Bao, another situation with her packed schedule came about once again. In September of 2024, Nano reached out to Red with a request that confused him. She asked if she accepted to be paid to cancel every comm that's not Cinder's related. Would Red pay for it? This confused Red when he first saw it. Once again, Nano had overloaded her schedule and, in her own words, was freaking out. Red told her that they would be fine for giving her work to replace those lost commissions if that's what would help her, to which Nano mentions exclusivity for the first time in their conversations. Red asks about the projects she wants to cancel, telling her that he won't pay her just to cancel them, making the joke that he would only do it if it was silver. Nano shows him her list and says she may just cancel them all. Red asks how much she would want, to which she mentions the full price, which would run Cinder and Red close to $50,000. Red tries to help Nano work through her schedule, seeing who she could keep and who she could cancel, doing his best to help before Nano just declares that she is canceling it all. She asks Red his opinion, which he is obviously reluctant to give, before finally she goes ahead anyway and cancels off her projects. Her entire wait list was empty, with only Cinder left on it. To be fair to Nano, it is explicitly noted in her terms of service, or TOS, that she reserves the right to cancel a project for any reason, at any time. That's the risk you take when working with her. But many people were still willing to take that risk, as she won VTuber Designer of the Year at the VTuber Awards, and was even up for consideration by Marika Lopi from Hololive for being her next model designer. And again, Red and Cinder were in support of her to win the chance to do Mari's model. It was then at this time, the start of 2025, that Red came to Nano with an offer of exclusivity. But Cinder put some context as to why this was offered in the first place. One of their other artists, that Cinder refers to as Artist Number 1, suggests the idea of a VTuber non-compete exclusivity policy. This is the first time that they seriously talked about an exclusivity deal on paper for any of the people they worked with on assets and art. After Red and Cinder talked about this offer, Nano popped in their minds since she had lightly suggested the idea herself recently. Red sent this idea to Nano, and she was willing to discuss it. It was at this time that Red, as he talked about exclusivity with Nano, that he tossed in the idea that she not take work from Cotton, Bao, or Silver. Upon which, Nano told Red that she had Bao's model on her list again. Red then said that Nano didn't have to make changes and to disregard him. But Nano told him that she was not really down to work with people who Cinder didn't get along with, seemingly willing to cancel on Bao a second time if Red and Cinder gave her the go-ahead. Red clarifies that he added Bao and Cotton to the mix because of things that had happened in between the friends and him believing that Bao had made Sacramore, the editor of Boss Rush, go exclusive because of that video's success, a theory that Red developed after Sack stopped working with them. Cinder reiterated that she did not know about him doing this, and would have violently opposed Red had she learned it. Although Red does tell his Sacramore theory to Nano, explains why Silver and Cotton are also on the list. And in reply to that story, Nano tells Red bluntly that she would rather work with Cinder than she would with Bao. This DM between Red and Nano is one of the central pieces to the entire case against Cinder and Red, and it is shown as cut off before the message about preferring Cinder to Bao in Nano's document with Cotton's name cut out as well, showing that the DMs from Nano's doc were edited at some point. Red continues to describe his theory to Nano about Bao, gatekeeping her editor to stop Cinder from competing with her music videos, and eventually Nano agrees to make a deal with Cinder and Red, saying, "We can do a deal," in all caps, before also promising to cancel her models with Bao, quote, like forever. From there, they hammer out a deal with Nano, even asking for a Cinder figure to add to the agreement, and Red and Cinder paying for Nano's new model rigging, before finalizing the agreement and Nano going along with all of it. After the talk with Nano, Red revisited the conversation with Arsenal 1 about their exclusivity deal, eventually signing a proper contract for the agreement. Though this artist did carve out exceptions from Bao and Silver, which Red claims he did not push against. Seems like everything was agreed upon and done. But that was not the case, as only a month or so later, Nano returned to Red and cancelled their deal. She was uncomfortable with cutting out Silver from their deal and wanted to keep working with her. Though as for Bao and Cotton, she expressly said she didn't care about them. It was Silver she was worried about. Yet despite this backtracking, Red still sent Nano the Cinder figure she wanted and paid for her model rigging. Nano felt especially guilty about backing out of the deal and contacted Cinder to apologize, expressing remorse for only talking to Red about the agreement and for working with Silver. Cinder told her it was okay, and she understood, seemingly holding no grudge. It would not be until April, when Nano started working for Shy Lily on a new model, that she and Red seemed to hit an impasse. Hearing from Nano that she would be working with Lily, Red asked her what the project was, as he had asked about other projects many times, and she answered just as she had before many times. He also talked to her about the drama that had slowly started to develop between Cinder and Lily, just as he had previously about the Cinder-Silver issues. It was shortly after that conversation, around 15 April, that Nano went radio silent on Red and Cinder, even ignoring Cinder's DMs. The next time they would hear from Nano was when Red would be added to a Discord channel by Nano, and then be quickly promoted as channel manager, before Nano left the channel herself, leaving Red with Akira, Nano's new manager. Or at least that's what Akira referred to themselves as. The reason for Nano having Akira take all of her communications was due to Nano being overworked. Red accepted this and tried to work with Akira to continue their business with Nano. But something seemed off. Eventually, Akira told them that Nano would not be taking work from them due to burnout. Red told them they would wait for her to come back one day. But that day didn't come. Cinder was so crushed by this news that she cancelled her stream for the night that she received it. Red reached out to Akira a few days later, still confused why Nano would not tell them about these things on her own. But Red told them that they would be moving on with backup plans. Akira told him they understood, and they hoped that there would be a chance to work together one day in the future. 5 days later, Nano dropped her Google Doc. Bao and Cinder had been friends for a long time before the cancellation occurred, and Cinder acknowledges that she was a hard friend to her, admitting that she did a terrible job of apologizing when she made her initial statement in response to the Google Docs. She had been neglecting Bao, knew about Nano canceling the model before Bao told her, and did not treat her the way she should have because of Red's suspicion about her. A poor treatment for someone Cinder claims to have been one of her first inspirations to become a VTuber in 2020.
Oh yeah, Zuli. I know this artist. Oh, Cinder! I love your model, Cinder. I'm a very big fan of your model. I smash. Just absolutely smash. Cinder is such a... Oh my god. What a good model. What a good model! What a good model.
But Cinder does not blame Bao for the cancellation, instead believing that she was misled as the extent of Cinder's involvement with Red's actions with Nano. Red too apologizes to her for his misjudgment and his actions against her. He went out of his way to get even with her for a slight that was only his misunderstanding and feels deeply sorry for his actions. The trouble between Cinder and Bao started in 2023, when Cinder found out that Bao hired one of her own editors for videos. Cinder felt slighted and worried that the editor thought Bao's content was better, or something else, to change who they were working with. To help alleviate this, Red offered the editor an exclusivity deal, but was turned down. And for a time, that was all there was. It would not be until Nano came to Red with her schedule in November 2023 that Bao and Cinder's projects would collide again. Once more, nothing really came of it, even after Bao shared the design with them at WeebCon in March of the next year. The next time that their projects would cross would be in July of 2024, on the She-Wolf cover song. Bao reached out to Red, and not Cinder for some reason, asking Cinder to be a part of it. to which Red said he would ask Cinder. Bao messaged him again shortly afterwards, asking once more about the collab, and Red asked a few questions about the production, also telling Bao that she could message Cinder about it any time for the same questions. Eventually, Bao did add Cinder to her project server, and they made the cover without much trouble, the song being released on November 1st of 2024.
So you ask of me, darling, it is no joke. This is a canopy. The moon's awake now, with eyes wide open. My body's craving, so feed the hungry.
Simultaneously occurring alongside the production of the She-Wolf cover, Nano began considering canceling on Bao's project, which we've already seen was done on her own initiative, with Red giving her moral support to help alleviate her of any anxiety. Bao told Cinder and her friends in their group chat about Nano backing out of her making her model, and Cinder said nothing, which of course came back to bite her later. Another month passed, and Cinder and Bao would have their last solo collab together, making clay models of their friends' mascots. And in the same month, Bao released her group original song, Natural Disaster. Red bringing up this song collab in particular to give better context to why he was developing a negative opinion of Bao, claiming that he saw her on stream bad-mouthing her own friends about their lack of equal talent compared to her, and struggling to produce the song because of that. Red claims that he cannot find the VOD for this event anymore, and I think he should have left this part out of the document, since I can only find examples of Bao talking about her friends and praising their performance, in comparison to him saying that she was bad-mouthing them.
Okay, but tell me why like 90% of the comments from Natural Disaster are all just like, oh my god, I cannot believe like Yuzu was hiding this talent. Like I can't believe all these years she said she was a horrible singer just for her to sound like a goddess. Like seriously. Nah, man. I had a vision, chat. I had a vision with this song and I knew these girls would bring it to life, okay?
Though Red continues discussing what happened in September of that year, as it was at TwitchCon 2024 that his opinion of Bao was truly formed. It was due to several issues that they had, as on the first night, Cinder and her friends, and Red, went out to dinner and Bao was supposed to be there, but never showed up, Red believing that she merely blew them off. Then another time, one of their mutual friends planned to make an original song with Cinder, and at the time, planned to have a music video for it. But they were also planning to sing a new song with Bao, but we're not planning to have a music video for that song. Red claims that Bao got upset about that, guilt-tripping the friend over their decision and about their own content. Which Red also claims this incident is why he believed that Bao would potentially guilt-trip Nano if she cancelled on her. And on the last night of the same trip, on TwitchCon, Cinder and her friends were planning to go to dinner and trying to figure out where to eat. Red saying that Bao insisted on going somewhere fancy or she wasn't going, placing caveats on just spending time with her friend. Red does not have the DMs to back up these claims, but says that they were in a group chat that neither he nor Cinder have access to anymore. Later in that year, in October, Cinder and her friends traveled to Japan for a group trip, and again, Red observed behavior from Bao that he found irritating and disrespectful. Bao got mad at another one of their friends for something that happened at a restaurant with a rude owner yelling at them and belittling their friend. The friend confided in Cinder afterwards that they were very upset over it, but brushed it off saying that's just how Bao is. And secondly, all their friends gathered for a Canadian Thanksgiving dinner on the last night of their trip, and again, Bao never showed up, though she promised she would attend. It was during this time that Red was working with Sacramore, one of Bao's videos editors, on the Boss Rush music video produced. After a month-long production, the video finally dropped on 29 November to great acclaim and approval. Bao, who liked the video and commented on it, praising Cinder, Tricky, and Vienna for their good work. But due to Red not approving of Bao's recent behavior, he pestered Cinder to not like Bao's tweet on the Boss Rush video drop. He admits that he was angry at the time, and this was petty of him. But Red's disapproval of Bao's behavior quickly turned into paranoia when Sacramore announced his exclusivity deal with Bao shortly after Cinder's Boss Rush video dropped. Red admits that his belief that Bao was sabotaging them was merely confirmation bias, and that Bao was not trying to sabotage them by cutting off access to Sacramore. But Bao's continued erratic behavior did not help, as even on a collab of Jackbox with her friends, Red claims that Bao randomly ended her stream, belittling her own streaming results and even arguing with chatters. Though again, Red does not have any of these comments to reference, or video evidence. Bao's own tweets show that her headspace at the time was not optimal, as she admits to having a bad work-life balance and needing to make some corrections in her life to get better health. And much of her sporadic behavior and actions most likely can be attributed to her severe pain due to her TMJ disorder, a type of disorder that is centered in the temporal mandibular joint of the jaw.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Which can cause pain in the jaw joint and in the muscles that control jaw movement. This pain is often inflamed by eating and chewing, and the pain can become very extreme if one persists in it, which may explain why Bao ducked so many dinners and was specific about where she ate, not to mention irritable after eating and prone to anger. It doesn't justify some of her alleged actions, but it makes them understandable and somewhat sympathetic. Though Bao claims to have told her friends about the situation, I wonder how much detail she gave them considering Red's interpretation of them. Did she give them full scope of the pain, or did she just grin and bear it and tell them that she was slightly discomforted? Either way, the issue with Bao and Red only got worse. So much so that Red and Cinder even got in a fight over it, with him warning her to cancel a stream they planned together, which she refused. Cinder kept working with Bao, even with Bao showing more sporadic behavior, which we have already seen could be explained by her condition. But Red only saw more conspiracies develop in his mind, as one of Cinder's main artists started working on Bao's projects too. This, along with other factors, led to Red beginning to make his exclusivity deal to his other artists and Nano. And as we saw before, Nano especially seemed to have no qualms with canceling on Bao and cutting her from business from then on. Cinder, unaware of Red's actions behind the scene, continued to interact with Bao as she always did, even if her last message to her before their friendship would be publicly demolished. Cinder admits that Red's pressure to not interact with Bao colored her behavior towards her friend. She let her friendship with Bao slack since Bao was thousands of miles away and Red lived with Cinder, and she didn't want the conflict, though she still did refuse to not work with her. And as time moved on, even Red admits he softened on Bao. Once the exclusivity deal fell through, he had no reason to keep up the hate and just let it fade, even hoping to plan a 6-person boss rush one day with all of Cinder's friends, even Bao. But it was too late. The well was poisoned, and that poison spread to all their friends too, with feelings they had between them falling victim to it as well. Cinder was moving closer to Vienna and Tricky as friends and having less contact with Bao due to boss rush, and was starting to think about bringing Yuzo into the mix as well, but all of that fell apart. Plans for future boss rush dying with their friendship. Though it was obvious from Bao's tweets that Cinder was not the only one that was losing contact with their friends. Work had gotten too much, and all the girlies were misunderstanding what had happened around them. There was no healthy communication. Another example of Cinder's failure as a friend, in her own words, was her failure to support Numi at her New York City concert in February of 2025. This was brought up by Numi during Cinder's cancellation, and as such, Cinder felt the need to clarify the situation of what happened. The initial start of Cinder attending Numi's concert began on September 1st of 2024, when Numi first messaged Red asking him if Cinder wanted to sing and perform at her concert set for late January. Red replies saying that they could definitely make it, but that Numi should talk to Cinder first. Numi promises to contact Cinder when things are a bit more in stone on the setup. That promise to talk to Cinder didn't occur until late November of that year, almost 3 months later, when Numi's DM'd Cinder. Though, this was not the first time she talked to Cinder about it, as she does admit that Numi spoke to her about it in person earlier, just not remembering where or when. But most likely, it was either during the TwitchCon that year, or during their Japan trip in October. But after this initial DM, it was not until 26 December that Numi reached out again to Red about the performance and said Cinder was down for it. Though Cinder doesn't remember telling Numi that she would sing for her concert, which was now planned for February 2nd, but went along with it, staying quiet, which she admits was a mistake. It was on the very same day that Cinder messaged Lily and discussed the launch of the V-Card series, a highly anticipated trading card game that featured VTubers associated with gamer subs. Cinder discussed with Lily if she wanted to do a collab for the release and do a box opening of card sets live on stream. They originally planned this for 17 January in 2025, when V-Card was supposed to launch. While Cinder and Lily planned for the V-Card drop, Numi and Red planned for the concert event. Then a snag came about in the V-Card collab. Originally planned for the middle of January, it was pushed back to the 31st, delaying the collab. Meanwhile, Numi was talking to Red and not Cinder about her concert, and Cinder was getting stage fright about the performance. Numi said it was fine, and she didn't want to pressure Cinder into doing something she was not comfortable doing. Even telling them that they cannot make it, that would not be a big deal. And 3 days later, Cinder told Numi that she was backing out of performing and not being comfortable with a live mic. Cinder's anxiety got the better of her, and she had to bow out. Cinder had always had trouble with live performances, as she admitted to a friend about her WeebCon concert 9 months prior, where she had almost canceled the entire thing due to nerves. Again, another 3 days later, Cinder dropped her announcement of now being a partner in gamer subs, just like Lily. And this put more pressure on Cinder, at least in her head, to support the V-Card drop and stream with Lily to make the launch a success. But due to delays, the V-Card drop would now be pushed to almost the same day as Numi's concert. This was decided on the 26th of January. When Cinder told Red about the collab time, he reminded her that it was the same time as Numi's concert. Cinder had forgotten and double booked. Cinder could have rescheduled with Lily, but let the pressure to get to her and her own worries about the performance, which made her waffle on going to Numi's concert. But eventually they decided that she and Red would attend. At the same time, she pushed her collab with Lily back a few hours, and Lily was good with it. Cinder was still stressing over the situation, as seen in her tweet just a few days before the collab and concert. A few days before the concert, Numi replied to Cinder's waffling messages and was very vocal about how she felt. She felt discarded and not very well treated as a friend, mostly telling Cinder that what really hurt her the most was the fact that Cinder was not talking to her about the issues that she was feeling, and not discussing her concerns with her directly, having to go through Red to hear everything. Cinder apologized, and Numi, though still hurt, seems to have accepted this from her, even being appreciative that she was open enough with her despite everything. But the misunderstanding was so severe that Cinder offered to not come to the concert, fearful that she would upset Numi if she did. But Numi insisted that she come, and Cinder did just that. She planned to make it no matter what. On the day of both the collab and concert, Cinder and Lily had their stream and both congratulated each other on a successful event before Cinder jetted off at full speed to see Numi's concert. Red and Cinder made it to the concert just in time and spent the day with her friends, even having an off collab the next day, spending the weekend together with friends.
Was like the sound guy in a sound booth, and like you started twerking at one point, Belle, and I could see the guy's face, and he just starts like nodding his head.
Hey, now this a real concert.
He's like, yeah. He's like, oh hell yeah.
Despite all the issues they had, Cinder planned to come to Numi's Chicago concert in July and show her friend the most support she could. But for obvious reasons, that never happened. Of all the people that replied to Cinder's apology post, Lily was perhaps the most vicious. Her tweet on the subject is infamous. Cinder says she considered Lily a friend, but had never really been close to her. She wanted to change that and get to know her better since she was close to her other friends. She was someone Cinder admired and looked up to since she was the first VTuber to become a partner in the Gamer Subs company. Lily never put out a document about her interaction with Cinder, but was the first person that Nano contacted about the exclusivity deal. As well, Cinder says that Lily was the one who pulled everyone together to organize, plan, and write the documents that led to her cancellation. Cinder believes that Lily's actions were fueled by her having a previous grudge against her. And since Lily said she was upset about not getting a section in Cinder's apology, Cinder specifically cites this as Lily's section. The first thing that started to turn Lily against Cinder, in her opinion, was an issue with the V-Card launch. Cinder held a stream on the 31st of January 2025, where she did an unboxing of V-Cards on launch day. But Lily was having a similar stream, and Cinder didn't want to step on Lily's toes, so she and Red messaged Gamersubs and asked them if only Lily could do the stream. This was prior to them actually discussing them doing the collaboration we just mentioned in the Newbie section. Gamersubs said that Cinder could as well and answered a few questions for Red and Cinder about the drop, such as price and card size. However, the rep that got this information for them was not approved to divulge it, since it was supposed to be private until launch. This especially was bad since the price they were given was wrong. But it was too late. Cinder announced this information on stream, as well as incorrectly assuming the drop would launch 20 minutes early on the app, as they had always done. And Lily got mad.
So yeah, I already showed off one item, I guess, for the weak card thingy. Also, there are rumors that some information has made its way to the public without that information supposed to be being public. Yeah, any information that wasn't known up until sometime today-ish, today's time frame, plus minus time zones. So yeah, any info you may or may not have gotten yesterday or 2 days ago or whenever those rumors started spreading, I don't know when, that info is, first of all, wrong. Second of all, it wasn't supposed to be public. So, what info? I heard from trusty sources that some info has been leaked on stream.
Lily, you're sitting
but info
so
is wrong.
I expected
Only
you
partial
and Jorph's
truth.
man spreading like there is no tomorrow, Keck.
Cinder apologized for the misunderstanding later on, DMing Lily directly to express her regret for letting the info slip early. But Lily said she held no grudge and told Cinder she had, quote, a lot of balls to reach out to her about it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Red and Cinder blasted Gamersubs later for the mix-up, and they apologized for the issue. And things went back to normal with Lily, as her and Cinder were even planning for the collaboration later with other streamers, and Cinder reached out to Lily to see if she was up to collab again later. Though their communications did not last long, as Lily stopped replying to Cinder's DMs around the middle of March 2025. It was around this time that Lily did not take part in a repo collab with some other streamers that she was originally planned to be part of. Cinder reached out again later to see if she was interested in playing the V-Card Sim together to push the game sales, but Lily never replied. Cinder even messaged her around the end of April one last time asking if she had upset her in some way and wanted to ask her directly. A few days later, Nano's document dropped. One of the major things that made Cinder think that Lily was angry with her was an issue with her raids. When Cinder raided Lily on the 30th of March, she says that Lily greeted the raiders, but not her.
Okay. Ooh! Oh my goodness! Hello! Oh! Hello, raiders! Hello! I am playing Berserker. It's called the last Berserker Kazan.
Though Cinder does admit that she does eventually thank her later on.
Thank you so much, Cinder, for the raid. Thank you, Power Pops.
But it was the way that Lily does this that made Cinder consider it strange. Lily thanking the raiders first, and only thanking the streamer after. Cinder still claims that she was not mad, but merely confused by her behavior. But it happened again 12 days later when she raided Lily once more, and Lily only greeted her raiders and only acknowledged Cinder when she read one of her chat messages. Again, nothing significant, but Cinder still felt it was off-putting, especially when Lily was not replying to her DMs. Combine that with Red seeing that Nano was working on a Lily model, and his paranoia kicked in and became suspicious of Lily, though he did nothing about her at the time, only asking Nano about it, just as he had about so many other projects she was working on. When Lily was ghosting Cinder on DMs, Cinder tried to reach out to Boeska, Lily's manager, and see if he could reach out to Lily for her. But that too ended in a dead end. And a few days later, Cinder's friendship with Lily also reached a dead end. Cinder clarifies that she and Silvervale were never friends. She sought a friendship with Silver, but she never achieved it. Cinder says that she only sought out a friendship with Silver for 3 reasons. Because she was constantly harassed as a copycat of Silver and hoped that collaboration would end the comparisons, that their fan base begged for a collaboration, and as such, a cooperation would be immensely successful, and she was constantly told the two of them were very similar and would get along well. Cinder claims she tried to talk to Silver and resolve their difficulties that the two of them had between each other, but that Silver never gave her a straight answer or responded very well to her. As such, Cinder eventually began to resent her and see her as only someone that had a grudge against her. Silver is also one of the few people that Cinder feels she apologized too much to in her initial apology, rescinding her comment on her own actions as unapologetically evil. Cinder feels she didn't hurt Silver, that Silver lost nothing due to her, and that she felt that she properly apologized for the opportunities that she took from her. The biggest issue between Silver and Cinder is the accusation of being a copycat. Cinder has claimed constant harassment from people online and in streams in concerns to her model design and its similarity to Silvervale. Initially, Cinder wanted to take her ASMR OC, Tashi, and transform her into a VTuber. This would be a shift from her being a full human into a wolf girl with a cherry blossom motif and white and pink flowers very similar to Okami, which Cinder was going to call herself an actual Okami VTuber. This is all planned out on 15 November 2020. However, mere days after this initial idea, Silver joined VShojo and rebranded herself as an Okami Sakura spirit in her official lore drop. You can see the obvious issues. They had been beaten to the punch. So shifting gears, they instead decided to go for a Hellhound motif instead. By the next month, they had had their design changes ready and moved forward with it. And by December 16th, 2020, Cinder had her ref sheet ready to go. So Cinder's design came about to avoid copying Silver. But they still knew a good thing when they saw it and did reference some of her chibi art and Twitch panels, reaching out to the artists that made them. Cinder and Red wanted to drum up some good publicity, so being an artist herself, Cinder got to work on art of her and other VTubers that she admired, ranging from Fruit to Bao, and finally Silver. Once done, she posted them to Twitter, and it was here that Cinder made her first mistake in her interactions with Silver. Cinder and Red knew something was wrong when they noticed that Silver's mom liked the fan art and retweeted it, only to then shortly after unlike it and unretweeted it. Confused, Red and Cinder went to a mutual artist friend who was also friends with Silver and asked them if they knew what had happened. Though confused by the request, the artist zeroed in on the hashtag Cindervale as the issue, as it looked like a ship tag and would make most people uncomfortable. Silver actually DM'd Cinder and made this fact obvious, telling her that directly, to which Cinder immediately apologized. Cinder deleted the tweet as Silver asked, and re-uploaded it later with the hashtag edited to not be so ship-like. Red later discovered that it was their mutual friend that had reached out to Silver to help fix the situation. With that debacle handled, Cinder moved on with her character and started work on her demon design, admitting to taking strong inspiration from another VShojo VTuber, ironically one of Silver's VShojo genmates, Fruit. In her document, Cinder tangents on this to explain that this model, often compared to Silver's goddess model and accused of being a way to copy, had no relation to Silver as the design of it had started a month before Silver's goddess redesign. But long before the demon would come to life, Cinder still had her first debut to make, which happened on June of 2022. And the comparisons of the two started almost immediately. During this stream, Red claims that Silver lurked for a short while, but doesn't have any evidence of it as she never followed or chatted, but was gifted subs while she was there. The next crossroads the two would have would be when Silver reached out to Nano to commission a new model, which Cinder was less than enthusiastic about since she feared that it would just mean that more people would accuse her of being a copycat. Which, despite debuting her model a month and a half before Silver's Nano model, she still was called a copycat. But despite this, Cinder still tried to interact with her, as she did with many other VTubers, responding to community tweets and other posts. Cinder and Silver would meet again in October of that year at TwitchCon, where Silver would be making a digital appearance in a digital meet and greet. While there, Cinder and her friend Aru would take a photo with her and their avatars, which Aru tweeted and Silver retweeted. Shortly after that, Aru, who was a close friend of Cinder's at the time, offered to reach out to Silver and propose a Wolf Girl collab since she had some previous connection with her. Cinder was all for it, and Aru reached out to Silver, but at the time, nothing ever came of it. Though Cinder still was dealing with the copycat accusations, as Silver posted a tweet of a meme very similar to one Cinder had posted 8 days prior. But Cinder was still accused of copying her nonetheless. Silver and Cinder continued to cross paths, most likely due to Cinder's growth in the VTuber community, as well due to mutual friends, one of which introduced the two girls to each other at the BSMP Minecraft server they were both playing on, along with other VTubers.
Oh my god, you're so cute. Thank you. The Minecraft too, yeah. Ross's server is so amazing. There's so many crazy emotes, and there's like 250 mods. Absolutely insane.
Silver? Oh my god! Oh my god, hi! Oh my god!
Hi! Hello!
Hello.
Hello!
Hi!
Hey guys, what's up?
Cinder, this is
Ross.
Silver, Silver, this is Cinder. Hello, Ross. again.
Hi, nice to meet you.
We're being swindled.
The traitor's invisible, right?
After all these meetups and introductions, Cinder reached out to Silver directly to speak with her, DMing her directly on Twitter asking if she'd be willing to hang out off-stream and see if they could become friends. Silver, waiting almost a year to answer her, turned down the offer to stream and play together, but did leave the chance for friendship open, giving Cinder the invite to DM her on Discord and message her there. 2 months after her DM to Silver, Cinder asked if Aru ever got an answer from Silver about their collab, which Aru said she didn't, but would reach out again. Cinder thanked her and planned to collab with Aru again, even if Silver didn't reply. Shortly after this, Cinder began to work on her now infamous mascot, Charlie the Pyro Pup. He was still under development and slowly working towards completion, and it would not be until January 2023 that he would finally get his name Pyro Pups to represent her fan community. She makes this clarification of her Pyro Pup development, as later she would once again be accused of copying Silver and her Petal Pup designs and names. Cinder would continue to try and develop at least a working relationship with Silver, raiding her in April of 2023. Cinder says she was never acknowledged and Silver never said her name. Cinder claims that over the years when she raided Silver, she was the only streamer that she had ever seen that Silver never named. Cinder and Red confided in a few friends these developments and the degrading situation with Silver from their perspectives. But beyond that drama, Cinder had her new waifu cup to be released soon, which, as we already covered with the Nano section, had some problems with it due to Nano's designs being very similar to each other. And again, this was the first time that Nano was brought into the drama that surrounded Silver and Cinder. But that drama took on an entirely different flavor when someone from Silver's inner circle joined Team Cinder. In May of that year, Red and Cinder had moderation applications open for Twitch and Discord, and one of Silver's mods applied. Red picked them up on it due to their high-level experience modding for another VTuber. This connection would prove important later, as this mod now worked for both Team Cinder and Silver at the same time. 2 months later, in July, after Nano moved fast to fix Cinder's waifu cup art, Cinder and Red got the gamer subs drops ready and set debuting on the 14th of the month, just 1 week before Silver dropped her own gamer subs merch with Nano art as well. Cinder was very keen to get her drop out first, as she was hoping to avoid being called a copycat again if she debuted her merchandise first. Meanwhile, the issues with Nano and Silver as artist and client continued to bloom in Red's mind behind the scenes. As October rolled around, TwitchCon once more came about, and Cinder, now a member of Mythic Talent, had her own meet and greet booth at the event. And close by was Silver, a fellow member of Mythic Talent, and her meet and greet booth. So, after Cinder's meet and greet, she walked over to visit Silver and say hello, resulting in this photo, taken by Red without Silver's knowledge, and tweeted by Cinder. Again, in hopes that good vibes between the two of them would limit, if not end, the copycat allegations. Red then took the initiative and messaged Cinder's mythic contacts to ask if Silvervale would be interested in doing something together, though he never specifies a collaboration. Most likely Red was thinking of merchandise or something similar since that would make the most money, but Mythic promised to reach out to Silver on their behalf. To help everyone understand the timeline of events and not think that Cinder was hounding Silver this entire time, despite being told she was not interested in collabs, it was not until after the Mythic Talent Outreach request that Silver actually messaged Cinder back a year after her initial Twitter DM was sent in November of 2022. But Cinder took Silver up on her offer to DM her on Discord, and Silver accepted her friend request. At first, Silver was very responsive to Cinder's DMs, but that quickly stopped and she did not reply to any of Cinder's DMs after Halloween of 2023. Cinder claims that this was the final time of only 2 times she ever asked Silver if she would be willing to do something together. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, it was around this time that Nano canceled Silver's new model and lied to her about the reason behind it. This would be one of the major claims against Cinder by Silver, that she worked to cancel the model while also sending a congratulations on her gamer subs drop, despite Cinder posting that DM 2 days before Nano decided to cancel the model. But despite Silver not replying to Cinder and avoiding her, the accusations of being a copycat kept coming. There are 2 gamer subs flavors, Sakura Splash, Silver's flavor, and Pyro Powder, Cinder's flavor, were released only 1 week apart this time, with Silver beating out Cinder to the punch. And due to having Nano R on both their tubs, Cinder claimed to being harassed for being an imitator again. After the gamer subs drop, the new moderator that came to Cinder and Red from Silver began to tell them some interesting things. Cinder said in her DMs to Silver that she had watched Silver's Valentine's event and was excited for her, trying to support her stream. But when she typed in chat, she complained that her messages were not going through. Red asked the moderator, Mod1, about this, and he told him that this issue was the elephant in the room among Silver's moderators. He claimed that Cinder's name, emotes, and even Cinder herself was blacklisted in Silver's chat, with Cinder's personal messages mod restricted to where they could not be sent. The mod also claimed that when it was discovered that he was modding for both Silver and Cinder, Silver accused him of preferring Cinder over her. Whatever was happening among the mods, 2 more from Silver's team soon came over and joined Cinder's Discord and Twitch. Mod 1 continued to make strong accusations against Silver in his DMs with Red. Cinder had replied to a tweet Silver made of a new emoji, and Silver soon deleted the tweet. Mod 1 told Red that people had shared that tweet in the Silvervale Discord asking for a Cinder-Silver collab. In a few hours, all the messages that had asked for that were deleted by the moderators. This was followed shortly by more of Cinder's emotes being blacklisted in Silver's chat. It didn't take long for chatters to notice that Cinder's emotes and even her name were blacklisted in Silver's chat, and they started to demand answers as to why. But Mod 1 told Red that the higher mods told them to ignore the messages. But the situation didn't just stop at the chatters. Other mods in Silver's Discord and Twitch were also in on the situation about the blacklist. Mod 1 even shared a few DMs between himself and another mod that showed that most of Silver's mods were very anti-Cinder. One of the mods even believing that Silver had told Cinder to leave her alone and that she was only coming on to stream to steal viewers. But Cinder was unaware of all this between Red and Mod 1, as Red had told her that nothing of the situation at all. As time moved on, again, Cinder and Silver's Gamersub merch drops happened on almost the same day, around the middle of August, once more tying the 2 women together, and similarities of their creativity continued to cause problems. And finally, at the start of 2025, the exclusivity deal with Nano came about, and just before the fallout of that bombshell, Cinder and Silver had their last crossroads with the AFK drink drop for Cinder and Silver's Pixel merch drops happening just a week apart from each other on the 4th and the 11th of April respectively. These coincidences piqued Red's paranoia once more, since Silver's drop had been ready to launch since February of that year, but she decided to hold off until April, shortly after Cinder's own AFK drop. Red expressed this issue to the artist that provided the promo photos for Silver's merch in a very long conversation, in which the photographer confirmed that the pixel drop had been ready to go for months. It seemed Red was willing to talk to almost anyone about the Cinder-Silver situation. But that situation would only get worse, as 2 weeks after their merch drops, Silver would drop her own Google Doc too. Cinder's smallest section in her document was dedicated towards Aru. Aru was a Wolf Girl VTuber like Cinder, who had collabed with and worked with her on multiple streams in the past. Aru was in no way associated with the original controversy or conflict between Cinder, Bao, Lily, or Nano. However, after Cinder's initial apology was posted on 27 April 2025, Aru posted a long Twitter thread in response. In her thread, she claimed that Cinder was what she once considered a friend, but that in light of the new situation and events, that she believed that Cinder was only using her for clout and connections to Silvervale. She claimed that due to her inability to establish these connections, Cinder stopped associating with her, having gotten what she wanted from her. The reason for her posting this reply, as she says in her secondary post following it up on 28 April, was to show that it wasn't just Red behaving this way, insinuating that Red's behavior as not isolated to him, and that Cinder too was someone that would do anything for success. Cinder's reply in her document is precise and to the point. She says that Aru lied about her, and that her claims of Cinder only using her were false. When Cinder and Aru first met in September of 2022, at the Twitch Rivals event, they hit it off well, becoming fast friends. It was here that Aru first told Cinder that she knew Silvervale personally. Cinder refutes that she noticed this, as said by Aru, and was only using her for this connection, which she says is preposterous. She also refutes that she wanted to use Aru against Silvervale due to a deep hatred of Silver, Cinder saying that she had nothing against Silver at the time. According to Cinder, Aru was the one to suggest that they try to get Silver to do a Wolf Girl collab, not her. Cinder defends that she treated Aru as well as she did with her other friends, meeting at conventions, hanging out, collabing, and never had anything against Aru. And to support this, she provides what she claims as the entirety of her DMs with Aru. The DMs show a normal relationship between two friends, joking and playing around while planning meetings and hangouts. The major items of interest being when Cinder DM'd Aru and asked her if she wanted to meet Silver together, which they both posted together, Aru referring to it as Canine Girls on Twitter, and Silvervale replying and liking the tweet. Following this, there is more friend chat until, as their TwitchCon experience ends, Cinder asks Aru about the collab with Silver and if she was going to ask her about it. Aru said that she was planning to, and in the conversation, Cinder doesn't sound pushy at all, saying that even if Silver doesn't want a collab, she still wants to collab with Aru as soon as she can. But that's as far as the talk went, as Silver never continued the discussion, and Aru never brought it up again. A few days later, Aru and Cinder carried on planning a collab together to play Mortuary's Assistant. Again, no sign of any drama or even talk of Silver appears here. Only a call between the two to discuss how to connect some issues with OBS.
Do we need to hold the clipboard while we do this?
It's your grandma.
Shut the fuck up, Grandma. No, no.
Well, we have to see if it's really Grandma.
Love your grandma.
Oh yeah, there she is. See, it's her Grandma. See? Dang, Grandma's getting a little sassy.
Between the end of October and the start of November, the two girls have two collabs together, and by the end of the year, Cinder gifts a skeb art that she commissioned to Aru, of the two of them together. After this, there is more friend talk and collab and party planning, followed by Cinder pulling in Aru to do voice lines for her upcoming debut around May of 2023. But a month later, Aru asked Cinder if she wanted to still use her for the voice lines, despite the drama that had occurred around that time between Aru and Yaki. TLDR, this drama was where Aru accused Yakirisu, a former friend and a collaborator within the VTuber community, of emotional abuse, manipulation, gaslighting, and exploitation over an extended period. This led to a Google Doc being dropped and the eventual cancellation of Yakirisu. Which, all of that sounds kinda familiar now that I'm thinking about it. But despite this drama, Cinder told Aru that she would still love for her to do the voice recordings. The conversation once more goes back to common friend talk, ending with Aru inviting Cinder to take part in an It-themed escape room at the upcoming TwitchCon for 2023. Past that, there was no further contact between the girls, and their DMs abruptly stop. One of the final sections of the document is where Cinder addresses Spite, another Hellhound VTuber, that has been the subject of multiple accusations of imitation and copying since the two women started streaming. Cinder admits that she disliked Spite, and that much of that dislike was due to her believing that she was a copycat in imitating her style. She admits that this was wrong considering she too had suffered a similar situation between her and Silver, and should have been more empathetic towards Spite. But she was not. And though she didn't actively try to hurt her, she did not oppose Red when he and Nano planned to exclude her from any future commissions. Though, after this initial statement, Cinder pivots the focus of the document from apologizing to Spite to defending herself from accusations of copying Spite. Many of these accusations came about from her cancellation, as large numbers of fans turned on her and converted over to Spite's side out of the opposition to what she had done. What follows is Cinder cataloging and timestamping her entire development process from when she first planned to become a VTuber and when she first planned to become Cinder, which starts with an email between her and her initial artist who drew up her first character sheet. She then compares the time between her and Spite making their Twitter accounts, which Cinder shows she predates Spite by 3 months, then comparing PNG postings, later model designs with Nano, the references she gave Nano for art, differences between ears with fire and no fire, and so on and so on. Each point of the document is mostly Cinder adding more distance between her and Spite, insisting that she was not copying her, as the narrative was flipped on her after cancellation. She especially focuses on the timeline for her and Red to get with Nano about making her hoodie design, which was one point many people accused her of copying Spite, since Spite's hoodie outfit previewed before Cinder's. And the comparisons continue to the point that they start to lose much meaning. It's not until we reach over halfway through the Spite section of the document that we reach the section where Nano and Red start discussing Spite as a potential customer for Nano, and Red suggests blacklisting her. This came about as Cinder became more paranoid that Spite was imitating her, and Spite reached out to Nano for potential art. Red had a negative opinion of Spite, just as Cinder did, and eventually he and Nano agreed to blacklist her, which again, Nano seemed to have had no qualms with doing. However, in the document, Red reflects upon this action and apologizes for what he did, and says to Spite that he had no right to speak of her in that manner. A few more details are discussed about Spite entering Cinder's chat once, and Cinder defending herself from being called a copycat when she did her first ASMR stream, which probably triggered some of the Tashi fans. But beyond that, the Spite section adds up to little more than an apology from Cinder and her defending herself from accusations of imitation of Spite, much in the same way as Spite had done in her own document during Cinder's cancellation. Cinder then tangents off the accusations surrounding Spite, and in this section includes another infamous individual that claimed they were unjustly bullied by Cinder during the cancellation, a fellow ASMR streamer called Niantails. So why did Cinder bring this up here? Well, because Spite brought it up. In Spite's document, a DM appears that asks if she was accused of copying Cinder, as the writer claims they were also being accused. This individual turned out to be Niantails. Cinder says that she was initially going to let this lie where it was, as she considered it to be a closed matter. But during her cancellation, Niantails popped up on Twitter to add her 2 cents. This post happening at the exact same time as Spite's document drop. Niantails accused Cinder of trying to intimidate her into silence over a dispute on art imitation because she was a smaller creator. Cinder took issue with this accusation, as she claimed Niantails misrepresented the issue. The art that Niantails presents in her tweet is not the art that Cinder says they had an issue with, instead asserting it was a different piece, one that Niantails used for her YouTube thumbnail, and one that was far closer to Cinder's original design. The 2 ASMR creators eventually resolved the issue, but Niantails' tweet made it sound like Cinder bullied her into removing the art from her video thumbnail, and that the Pyropups were sent out to harass Niantails until she acquiesced. But Cinder objects to the bullying accusations, and says that at the time of the original conflict, Red reached out to a friend to ask what they could do about it, and in response, that friend commented on Nyantail's video, calling her out as a copycat. This is the only potential quote-unquote bullying that Nyantails could be referring to. But luckily, before things got too bad, Cinder reached out directly to Nyantails, and the two discussed the situation on DMs to find a good resolution. There was a significant back and forth between the two, but eventually, Nyantails, of her own volition, agrees to take the art down and redo it for a new thumbnail. Though Nyantail does refuse to remove her tweets, as Cinder asked, despite Cinder even offering to remove her own if Nyantails agreed. As for harassment, Nyantails took Cinder to task for liking a comment that was supposedly nasty towards her on her video on Twitter. Cinder apologized for liking the tweet, saying it was in the heat of the moment, and vehemently opposing such behavior. That was the end of it, and the two women left it at that. Though definitely not friends, they were not enemies at the end of the day, and the conflict was over, as each of them agreed to delete their tweets. Finally, coming to the end of this section, Cinder hammers home once more that she never sent her fans to attack Nyantails, since her tweet got very small number of replies and only a few ever said anything mean. And despite Nyantails calling Cinder a bigger streamer, pushing down a smaller one like her, at the time, Nyantails was actually the larger content creator by almost 2,000 followers. This section, though named for spite, ends with Cinder discussing the constant issue that she has had with new VTubers popping up with very similar designs and very similar characters to her own, and reasonably, Cinder thought that many of them were copycats, as they all began to appear with her signature fire in the ears. But she never claimed sole right to the look, as she even applauded one of her friends for getting a similar design, and one friend put it very well to summarize this whole situation. She understood what it felt like when people copied you a lot, but consoled Cinder with the fact that it was only natural since she inspired a lot of people, and that was certainly true. I have, for the most part, gone over the document exactly as Cinder made it, but one part that I have left out was a section that appears right after the section named for Lily, called The Breakdown. I felt that this information was out of place and needed to be at the end of the document to summarize everything that happened and Cinder's own personal theories about what happened behind the scenes before her cancellation. This section is almost a quarter of the document, sitting at 253 pages long, and is a good summarization of the entire document if you don't feel like reading all 1,100 plus pages. To start off the section, Cinder labels Lily as the main mastermind of her cancellation, essentially claiming that she manipulated Nano into believing that she was being used. This led to, in Cinder's words, Nano lying about her experience with Red to avoid accountability for herself. With these two supporting positions, Cinder then says that the two of them, Nano and Lily, convinced her other friends that she was the enemy. Cinder focuses on 12 people for this section: Nano, Lily, Bao, Numi, the remaining girly pops, Buff Pup and the other members of Vichiban, and Sacramore. She makes it clear that no one contacted her before the documents were dropped, and only one of them reached out to her after, asking for her side of the story. Though Cotton and Silver would be brought into the controversy later, Cinder levels the planning of her cancellation at this previous list, minus the 3 other girly pops who she believes were merely brought in later as supporters of the chorus against her. Much of this section, as I said, is practically a summarization of everything else that the document goes over, with highlighted sections that display Cinder's own personal speculation on who did what and what their motivations were. She does this by going over a 17-day timeline. Without rehashing the entire document, the basic summarization of Cinder's game theory here was as follows. Again, this is how Cinder defines these events in her own opinion. Starting on the 14th of April, Nano showed Lily Red's comment about her, which led to Lily manipulating Nano into thinking that she was being used by Red and Cinder. 7 days later, Lily and Nano brought in more of Cinder's friends as listed above. This included Buff and Vichiban, who were aware of it before almost anyone else was.
But, you know, with the fire VTuber that happened recently, a lot of us didn't say anything until the person who was affected said something. And we all went to said person and said, hey, what do you want to do? And they said, I want to do this. And we said, okay, girl, like, you go do that and we'll be here to support it.
4 days later, the documents were dropped by Bao, Nano, and Sacramore minutes apart, starting at 1:42 a.m. and ending at 2:05 a.m. EST. Cinder believes this timing was on purpose, in order to prevent her from replying, due to Lily being afraid of her quote-unquote manipulating her way out of it. Cotton, Silverville, and Spite were brought in just before the drop, as their own statements were soon to follow, and she believes could not have been made so quickly without some type of pre-coordination. In connection with this, Cinder believes that Nano's new manager was a smokescreen put up between her and Red, and her and Cinder to prevent them from getting the truth out of her before the cancellation took place, as she cites that Akira had no managerial experience and was primarily a game developer. Cinder believes this mostly due to Nano having previous connection with Akira as the artist in their own game development, that led to Akira playing a willing part in the smokescreen. Expanding upon Nano's potential conspiracies, Cinder gets quite thick into the conspiracy theories as she focuses on the time zone issues regarding the DMs in the cancellation Google Docs. Many of Nano's DMs that she shared have different timestamps, some from her time zone, others from a different one. Cinder suggesting that this meant that she most likely was allowing someone else to view her Discord, but she's unable to prove her theory beyond just pointing out this strange discrepancy. Turning away from the timing issue, Cinder then breaks down the entire Google Doc posted by Nano, which she already did in her Nano section, but here she speculates as to Nano's reasons for turning on her. Once more, Cinder pins much of the blame on Lily manipulating Nano, claiming Lily lied to her. This ties into her also claiming that due to Nano's first language not being English, Cinder believes that the Google Doc was ghostwritten for her, and Nano was merely the source of the details. She supports this by claiming that the document focuses heavily on Bao to a great deal, which is strange when you consider that Nano said she didn't care about Bao. Again, to explain these strange oddities, Cinder points the finger at Lily as a potential ghostwriter for Nano, mostly due to the similarities of language in Lily's tweet and Nano's wording. After Nano's document breakdown, Cinder turns to Bao's document to clarify some issues and comment on Bao's stream that she did addressing the issue. The only major conflict that Cinder cites is Bao claiming that Cinder didn't come to Numi's concert, which she chooses to believe is merely Bao misremembering since she was under such duress at the time.
Numi forgave you when you didn't come to her concert. That you were planning with her for over half a year. I wonder if you knew how devastated she was.
But beyond this one issue, Cinder's comments are mostly apologetic toward Bao, once more apologizing for having played any part in hurting her friend. After the apologies, Cinder returns to her speculations, focusing on why Nano had Lily talk to Bao instead of reaching out to her herself. Cinder asserts that this was mostly to ensure that Bao had no doubt of the authenticity of their claims, that Cinder had tried to injure Bao's career. Lily being one of Bao's closest friends, she would have had no doubt about the validity of the accusation, and little evidence would have been needed to sway her to their side. With these points covered, Cinder turns her full attention to Lily's infamous Twitter reply. If Cinder's previous commentary on Bao's document was mostly apologetic, her comments on Lily's were all-out war. Though she starts with her comments in the Twitter reply, she quickly turns her attention to Lily's commentary on stream on the issue. Here, Cinder comments on almost every minute of the stream where Lily discusses it, but she does break off to address a major accusation leveled against her regarding raids and Lily not properly greeting her when she raided her. To address this, Cinder shows direct comparisons of Lily's previous welcomes to Cinder's raids, in contrast to her later ones, and shows the differences.
We need a few more. Cinder! Oh my goodness! Hello, Pyro Puppies! I am having a Subnautica marathon. It's not a subathon or anything. Like, I'm literally just playing until I finish the game. That's it.
As Cinder continues addressing Lily's comments, she particularly accuses Lily of projecting her own anger onto Bao, using her as a surrogate for her own grievances. While all the while, Cinder points out Lily's behavior in her commentary streams as what she defines petty and narcissistic.
I am going to be super petty. Not even a section for myself. For someone that is so upset for me not naming her full fucking government Twitch.tv name, for someone to just put me in a document as Lily when previously referring to me as the other gamer subs owner. I don't even get a section for myself with my name properly fucking written. Come on, bro.
Cinder follows this part with more speculation, trying to determine why, in her words, Lily was so set to destroy her. Primarily, she cites their dual ownership of gamer subs as the main issue. From Lily claiming that Cinder only wanted to collab with her because of gamer subs merch drops.
And yes, I am guilty of ghosting 2 messages where she asked for a collab, which, by the way, she also only does when there is something business related. AFK drop, V-card drop, any event, any debut, any announcement, any merch. Then I'm important. Then we can network.
Lily claiming that Cinder begged for partnership.
Can't imagine what you and everyone is going through, but we can get through this together.
Honestly, I'm fine. She saw me as competition, paid it on me for asking for it by wanting a model from the same model mama, which is a bit weird when she's the one begging for partial owner and all kinds of other things that she wants from me. But hey, somehow I'm the one who's looking for trouble for wanting a new model.
Or Lily deleting her reply to Cinder's announcing tweet of her gaining partial ownership of gamer subs. Cinder believes that it was the competition between them that led to the animosity. Cinder calling herself the Charizard of V-card drop in particular seemed to have set Lily off the most and been one of the biggest issues that caused the schism between them. For those that do not know, in the Pokemon trading card world, particularly during the first launch of the original set way back in 1996, Charizard was legendary as the most valuable and favorite card of any of the Pokemon cards of the time. Even today, 30 years later, it still has a place of almost mythical status. And Cinder calling her card that mythical beloved card when discussing the V-card game, the card game that was started, funded, and primarily organized by Lily, well, this did not go over well with the Orca.
I still find it funny that she called herself the Charizard if V-card. Girl forgot Lily wasn't a Goldeen, she is a fucking Kyogre. There is no competition.
God, that... Oh, when she said that, and when she tried to bring me onto... Okay, I know... When she sat there and she tried to make this thing with me and we were doing a collab and she was just like, oh haha, the Charizard on Blast, Charizard V-card doing the... Oh, like, how dare you sit there and pretend to be some Boggs legendary of something that you didn't create. Disgusting. Trust me, we all cringed, but people sometimes get excited and they do cringe-worthy stuff.
And based on the sales of the card on auction sites, the fandom was agreeing with Cinder. V-card is definitely one of the things that Cinder regrets losing out on after the fallout. She laments that she was planned to be in the second phase of the card game launch, but her art for the water-type card was pulled for obvious reasons, only sharing it in her document a hint of what would have been. Cinder moves on from Lily to Numi. Once again, she is greatly apologetic to her friend for the suffering she felt, but objects to Numi making the same claim that Bao did, that she did not come to her concert.
Somebody who would put business over me, you know, and then afterwards, after I didn't reply, sent a message saying maybe they can make it after all. And then getting a message from Red saying she felt really guilty she couldn't go and we want to make it so that we can be there for you. And I think that's what really caused me to want to say something, and I did. And I messaged Cinder and I expressed my disappointment.
To refute this, she shows multiple clips and stream VODs that have her at the concert, and even in the hotel room the next day, hanging out with her friends. Cinder admits again that she should have been more communicative with Numi to prevent the confusion, but she was, by video evidence, there at the concert.
Coming backstage, Junie, Matara, Vienna, Cinder, Tara, Holmes, Office Drummer, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to scream at the concert, but I tried not to scream too loud because Cinder was literally in front of me and I didn't want to scream her ears off. Okay, another thing, I kept trying to offer Cinder the seat and she wouldn't take it. And so I wasn't sitting on it either, and I felt like now no one's got this seat. And so eventually I just sat down because I was like, damn it, now I should sit on this seat, otherwise it's a wasted seat.
Even showing her own photos from her phone of the performance. Overall, she is not as condemning of Numi, but she does claim she lied in her statement. Though Cinder speculates that Numi only lied because of this misinformation she received from Nano. Cinder still believes that overall, there was only 2 people that conspired against her. Nano and Lily. And it was through this supposed conspiracy that Cinder accuses them both of greatly profiting from her downfall. Nano gained tens of thousands of followers and ended up with a plushie deal and a Gamer Subs waifu cup, while Lily's streaming numbers surged, and the two of them began to collab and work together on new projects.
What the hell is even that?
Okay, I had to stop for a minute. This outfit is already debuted by the time this video is coming out, but I just have to ask, did no one grab her and tell her that this might kind of look bad? I mean, seriously, there's killing your enemy's career, there's tap dancing on their grave, and then there's digging them up, skinning them, and wearing them like a suit. Now, I know some people are going to defend it and say she probably had this in the development for months before. I don't care. Seriously, did no one tell her how bad this would look?
They're the same picture.
Oh, man. Okay, that's it. Back to the video. And speaking of projects, Cinder brings up an old bit of the past between her and Lily when they first talked way back in 2022. She offered to get a skeb sketch of the two together. Lily was excited by this and agreed, saying they were a water and fire theme like Kyogre and Groudon, 2 famously popular Pokemon that are rivals, which Cinder says makes Lily's lore video about her as a Kyogre-like creature defending her friends from a fire monster seem very coincidental and ironic, especially for its timing of debut. Although I will put my 2 cents in on this one and say it's most likely very much a coincidence, as such a long animation of 20 minutes plus was probably in the works months before even the thought of any cancellations occurred. Cinder wraps up this section of the document with a summary of all that had happened, all that was lost, and all that she did wrong, Red did wrong, and the wrongs that she believed were enacted against her. Her final words being, "This was a witch hunt, and everyone involved just wanted to move on from it as soon as I was gone." Cinder's final section of the document are messages to the Pyro Pups and her plan for the future. I will not cover those, as if you are interested, I think it's best for you to read them yourselves and hear them from her directly, which I strongly encourage you to do so. Both are less than a page, so it won't take long, but overall, that is Cinder's document in a brief summary. Yes, this video is brief. I have left things out and I have skipped parts. If I went over everything in detail, then I would still be talking for hours beyond this point. If you want more, read the document yourself. As I said, I strongly encourage you to do so. Always check people's sources. Never just swallow what they tell you. But I'm sure you're curious about what I think of this whole situation, right? Well, the answer to that is nothing. I have no thoughts whatsoever, as this is something that none of us should have ever known about in the first place. I believe that such issues between friends should be just that, between friends. I know the clapback is that there was fear of Cinder gaslighting the VTuber community, so they conducted this late-night assault to prevent that. But I don't see that as a valid argument. These were friends, close friends, and the first thought they had when they believed one of their own betrayed them was not to get to the bottom of the issue and talk to said friend, but to instead publicly cast her to the mob with a summary cancellation, all to ensure what? That they would save face? That just doesn't sit right with me. Cinder was wrong. Red was wrong. Both should have been better friends and not treated people so poorly. But as we have seen, they were not the only ones to treat their friends poorly. If I had my way, I would give a simple message to the community and to these, my Oshis. And that message is an old line from a prayer. Forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. Forgiveness is such a rare thing on the internet. Some even call it naive, and that sentiment saddens me. If even friends cannot forgive each other for hurting one another, then what does that say for the VTuber community's future? This drama has gained us nothing. The friendships, the good times, the love that the community once had is now tainted and scarred forever. Oh, what a shame that things could have just been different. But I am a man of hope. And maybe, one day, it will happen, and we will see them together again, as friends.